Hi, it's Kristen, and this is another episode of the reading series where I read a series. So on March 17th, Hannah Kana is coming to Waterstones to do an event for the third book in her series, the final book in the trilogy, to be released. And my sister really wants to go. She loves the series. I have not read the series. So I promised my sister I would read at least the first book before the event so I can go with her. So I will be reading the Fallen Gods trilogy. Book 1 is God Killer. Book 2 is Sunbringer. And book 3 is Faithbreaker. And that is soon to be released. So yes, I'm going to be reading book 1 before the event. Book 2 I will try and start at least before the event, and then obviously book 3 not yet out, gotta wait for my sister to read that first. These books feature gods, and one of our main characters is a god killer, and all I really know is that she doesn't like gods. Other characters maybe do, so there's like opposing ideas about the gods between our cast of characters. Also, there's a lot of, I think, political machinations, stuff to do with a previous war with the gods, perhaps, and a potential war that could be coming if no one puts a stop to it. But that's, yeah, mostly what I know. I'm excited for sword wielding ladies. Intrigued to see the magic system and how the gods work in the context of the books. And yeah, these covers, I just need to take a moment, are stunning. They are so pretty. But yeah, let's hope the inside is as great as the outside. I finished God Killer by Hannah Kana. I loved this. I really liked it. It was great. I'm so happy I liked it. So I had meant to update throughout my reading of this, but I got so into it that I just like didn't have moments to pick up the camera and film, and then by the time I sort of thought about it, I was basically done. So I thought I'll just finish it and do like my final thoughts afterwards. I loved the world building in this. I think the way the gods work is so interesting. Like the idea that you have all these different types of gods, some big, some small, some dead, some forgotten, some like fading, and that like they want tokens of like appreciation and love from people, and sometimes those are little things that just like bolster them a bit, and other times they're big sacrifices and you might get something from the god in return. You might get like a boon from them. Some gods might curse you. I loved the world building and the idea of the gods. I thought it was so interesting, not like anything I've read before or read for a while at least. So I loved that. I really liked our main characters, Kissin, Elogast, Inara, Skediseth. I think they're a great mix of characters who all bring something different to the table. I think their interactions and their relationships with each other as a whole group and then also individually with each other, so interesting. Love the dynamics, love seeing those relationships change and grow throughout the story. Like Kissin is sort of like pissed off with everyone and doesn't really like people other than her sisters to start with, and by the end she like really cares about Inara and Elogast. but that she still stays true to her character. It's not like she learns to care about these people and then she's all lovey-dovey. She's still like quite brash, quite harsh, quite stoic in certain ways, but very protective. And I loved Gushing as a character. I thought she was great. And I also didn't know going into this that she's actually a disabled character, and I thought that was great, the way that disability was represented in this. I am not a disabled person myself, but I know that Hannah Kaner had like sensitivity readers, and that was very important to her when writing the disabled characters and also the characters of colour in here. She said that that was, yeah, something that she took quite seriously when she worked out where she was going with certain characters and how they were going to be once she'd conceived of the characters. It was really important that she dealt with those things in a sensitive, respectful way and really worked on that. So I thought that was great. I loved the ending as well. I think it's set up so well for book 2. I'm really interested to see where that goes for book 3. Yeah, I whizzed through this. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen with the party being like somewhat split now at the end of this, and how that works in book 2, and what I guess new characters or like returning characters might be a bit more developed to see what we get in book 2. But yeah, this was great. I love the conflict. I think Hannah Kaner also writes really good like action fight scenes. I think there's a good mix of like fighting and action, and then more in-depth character development and conversations, and those like quieter, softer moments. Yeah, this has like put me in such a fantasy mood. I'm so glad that my sister made me get to these sooner than I probably would have without her push. Yeah, I'm excited to get into Sunbringer now. So I've started Sunbringer. I'm not far into it at all, 36 pages. I started it just before going to the Hannah Kaner event. I hoped to read more of it before then, but I didn't get around to it. I managed to read Godkiller and then I had to read something else for a book club, so I didn't jump straight into Sunbringer. So my sister and I went to the Hannah Kaner event at Waterstones. It was great. She was like in conversation with Tasha Suri, whose books also sound really interesting. My sister actually ended up buying The Jasmine Throne. And yeah, a great event. Really interesting to hear them discuss the series, because I haven't read book 2 and the event was for the release of book 3. I did get spoiled. Hannah Kaner was like, minor spoilers, this character and this character interact, and I'm like, one of those characters, as of the beginning of this book at least, is presumed dead, so now I know that they're not. I didn't believe that they were, because they talk about the character being dead and like the house being burnt down, but no one ever sees the body. Like Gushing and Inara don't see the body, so I'm like, unless I see the body, I don't assume they're dead. Turns out they're not, apparently. So I'm excited to get to that point because I think that'll be really interesting. I didn't mind the spoilers. Like, I'm going to an event for book 3 in a series when I've not read book 2, so like can't really blame her for talking about stuff that happened in the series generally. But yes, not far into this, but I'm liking this setup so far. We've sort of just got the party being separated, like Gushing is separated from Inara and Elogast, which is very sad. And like Hannah Kaner said, it's always that thing of like in a book 2 in a series, when you split the party, it can be like frustrating, but
for plot reasons and like story reasons and exploring the world, it was something that she thought she needed to do. And so I'm excited to see more of the world, because we've only really been in one part of the world so far, and now we're going to see like Talisha, so that's going to be interesting. And I am enjoying the setup with Aaron as a character. Like chapter 1 of this is literally just ends with him being like, I'm gonna become a god. So yeah, awful person. Like, don't like him as a person, but as a character, like, really interesting. I think Hannah Kana said at the event, she was like, with Aaron as a character, it's very much like cool motive, still a war crime. So I'm interested to see where that goes. And obviously his relationship with Elagast is very fraught, but there's like so much history and previous like love and loyalty there. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how that is going to go, see how Kissin comes like back. I hope she comes back to the characters, even if they're separated for a bit. And just, yeah, looking forward to the character interactions and seeing how much like darker or more intense the story gets. They did say at the event that book 3 definitely goes to a an intense place with like some bittersweetness, but also a lot of like sadness. The event was great. It's really made me look forward to book 3, so I need to get through book 2 in order to do that. So I will update you when I'm a bit further through. I made sure I filmed this clip now, and I will at least film another one, because obviously with book 1, I was like, I'm going to read these books, and then I just read book 1 because I was so into it. So I will try and update throughout this one and the third one. Spoilers abound, you know this, I've said it. So don't get mad if I spoil things, because they're going to happen.
I always think it's really fun and creates such an interesting dynamic when we have like characters who are established as like friends, they have a relationship. In this case, Kissin and Elagast, who met and bonded and stuff in the first book, but are now separated. When they have like opposing things they need to do. So like Elagast is like, I'm gonna kill the king because he tried to kill me and he's bad for Midran and we can't let him have power. He wants to make himself a god. We gotta kill him. And he's like joined the rebels, the rebellion, and is trying to convince them to like help him in his quest to kill the king. But he also has that like history with Aaron, so like while he wants to kill the king, he also sort of doesn't, because they have that whole past and love for each other. Meanwhile, Kissin is like, I want to kill the king. I don't like the king. But the gods that she knows and talks to, like a citizen and Arn, are like, you can't kill the king because all the like surrounding lands are like raising armies and are gonna come to Midran and like invade, and there is gonna be war. And if you kill the king, you have no one in charge of Midran, no one that like everyone who lives in Midran will rally around. You'll have unrest and like arguing noble houses and no one in charge when these armies come. And these armies have gods on their side. Midran has no one of that ilk other than the king. So you can't kill the king because otherwise Midran has nothing and will just be overrun and destroyed. So yeah, it's interesting that Elagast has this sort of past loyalty and love for the king, but wants to kill him and is trying to kill him. Kirsten has this hatred for the king, but can't kill the king, and almost like has to save the king now. So those are two very opposing things. Meanwhile, Kirsten and Elagast are like good friends and have this relationship where, even though in the first book they sort of kept things from each other, they seem to be like not necessarily on the same page, but they had the same, to an extent, like core beliefs, or they in the first book were in it to like protect the same people. Like they both had Inara that they wanted to look after, whereas now their two goals are really separate, and also they're separated. So I think it'll be interesting if we do see them come back together, what their interactions are going to be like when they realize that they are now essentially on like opposing sides. So an interesting dynamic. I'm excited to see how that is going to play out. I liked this one. I thought it was good. Often I find that, like in a lot of cases, the second book in a series is like a bit of a filler book and is like the worst one. I will say I didn't love this quite as much as I loved God Killer, but I thought it was still a strong second book. It didn't feel like filler. It felt like it was continuing the plot. It was getting characters where they needed to be for the final book. It was setting up character relationships, character conflicts, and was like moving things along and adding to characters and their relationships and the world and the political climate and stuff, and the relationships between the gods and the characters and gods, and all that stuff felt very organic, and yeah, like it was getting us ready for the final book rather than just like it bridging the gap without much purpose. So I did really enjoy this one. I think perhaps if I'd read it faster and like been able to get through it in just a couple of days like I did with God Killer, perhaps I could have liked it more, because like my experience reading God Killer was so much fun, just like blasting through it in a few days, whereas this did take me like a week or a week and a bit because I had like a lot going on. So I do think if I'd read this maybe at a slightly like clippier pace, I might have got a bit more into it, especially towards the end when, especially from Elogast's point of view and Inara, it was a lot of like fighting. We were really in the thick of a battle, like potentially setting up for the war and stuff, which is like inevitably coming. So yeah, I think those scenes were great. It was really interesting to see like the conflicts, not just between like one side and the other side, like Elagast and the rebels, and then the king and his army. Like you had that conflict, but then you also had conflict within like each party. You had Elagast, who has previously been a soldier and was in a war, and so you know doesn't like killing, but is aware that like he has killed before. He is willing to kill people in order to like save his friends, save the kingdom, stop Aaron taking over, becoming a god. He is like, yeah, I'm fully willing to fight. And there are other characters who are also willing to fight, but potentially do like worse stuff and use other people in a way that Elogast is not okay with. And then there's also rebels who are like, yes, we want you to be on our side, like Elogast, you're a great leader, but I don't want to hurt anyone. And so you have that conflict even within the rebels of like various people being willing to various degrees to hurt people or use people or fight people, etc. So I think there's like really great discussions in here on like how far people are willing to go for the ones they love, for a cause, for the kingdom, for themselves. I'm very excited for book 3. My sister is currently reading it, and when she's done with it, she is going to give it to me, and so I can finish the trilogy. I am very nervous. She said she's liking it so far, but she's just sort of waiting for like death and destruction. And yeah, this left off in a really interesting place, sort of getting all the characters together, and I'm just sort of waiting for the character relationships and conflicts to sort of like blow up. So I think, yeah, we're left in a very interesting place, and I am also just sort of waiting to see who dies, and I hope it's not my faves, but I feel like it could be. But yes, really enjoyed this one. Cannot wait to read the third and final book. We are on to the third and final book. I was slightly worried going into this because, letting you in on a little behind the scenes secret here, this vlog has actually been like a couple of months in the making. When I started this vlog, I think I mentioned it, I was going to an event with the author Hannah Kana, because my sister had read the series, or had read the first 2 books and didn't want to go on her own because it was celebrating this coming out. So I read Godkiller, and then I read something else for fun for myself. Then I started Sunbringer, the second book. Then this book came out. We went to the event. I finished Sunbringer, and then obviously my sister wanted to read this one. So I then had to wait for her to read it, and then when she finished it and gave it to me, I then had like book club books to read. I had other vlogs to sort of finish up. So I'm only just getting to this. So between Godkiller and Sunbringer, I read 1 book between them, just to like spread it out a little bit. Between Sunbringer and this, I've read 7 books. It's been like a month and a half since I read Sunbringer. So I was going into this slightly worried that I was gonna like have forgotten stuff. I know it's not that long a period of time difference, but I was slightly worried I was gonna go into this going like, I can't remember who that character is, or like I don't remember what happened. But happy to say that's not the case. I was straight back in this world. I think Hannah Kana has a really like accessible way of writing fantasy. Like, it doesn't feel overly complicated. So I did feel like I could just get right back into it. I think I also like retained a lot of information because I just really enjoy this series. So I wasn't like sort of indifferent going, you know, I can't even really remember what happened. I was like, I need to find out what happens like now that they're all like in the same location, at least for the start of this, before they all go their separate ways on their different missions and stuff. So yeah, I was right back in, really into the story, genuinely worried about how they're going to face Heseth, who's the fire god, who just seems like unbeatable. I don't know how this is going to go down. I'm ready to cry. I feel like whatever does go down isn't going to be fun. I feel like it's going to be one of those fantasy series that has like a satisfying ending,
but one that's not necessarily like happy. Like, I think we're gonna lose some characters. I think some characters are gonna end up in places that I would like not wish for them, but that it's gonna be for like the greater good, and they're gonna be heroes, even if like it doesn't end happily. So yeah, excited to get into this further. I'm like 100 pages in now. Things are getting intense. I just love our main cast of characters, like Elogast, Kissin, Inara, Skediseth. I think they're all such great, complex characters, because like they're not all good. Sometimes they're like kind dickish, but I really root for them, and I root for them like as a group, and I really love how much they care about each other, even though they're like very much a ragtag team who were forced together due to completely like out of their control circumstances. I love that kind of dynamic in a group, and we've got extra complications to their relationships now with other characters coming into it, and yeah, just I'm loving it. If I had to like have a gripe about one thing in these books, it would be that some characters have similar names. That's my gripe. There's like the Yether family, like Yether. There's also a character called Yatho, Yatho. And there's like another character with a Y name. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. It's like Yester or something. And it just... I feel like that's similar. And then we also have Lesser and Lertus, and the two like fire gods. The big fire god is Heseth, and the god of the hearth is called Hestra. So we've got Heseth and Hestra, who have a lot to do with each other. And sometimes I'm like, wait, which one's which? So that's like my only thing with it, is that some people have similar names, and sometimes I have to remind myself of who's who. But that's it. Otherwise, really enjoying it. Really looking forward to reading the last chunk. I feel like either I'll update you again when something's happened, because I will want to talk about it, or I'm gonna like absolutely blast through this and just update you at the end. We will see. I'm like 150 pages from the end, roughly. We've had a battle and deaths. We've had a betrayal, and like it really feels like it's picking up, we're amping up towards the end, but like I don't know exactly how it's gonna go, and I'm nervous about what's gonna happen to like the characters I love, and yeah, the tension is there, and I feel like I just need to get through it now and see what happens. I finished Faithbreaker, which means I finished the Fallen Gods trilogy. This one I really enjoyed. I thought it was a very satisfying end to the series. I thought there was a good balance of political conversations, battle action scenes. I was just very satisfied by the end. Was happy, or felt like bittersweet about where the characters ended up for the most part. I had fully convinced myself that a certain character was going to die, and I had like prepared myself for it, was just waiting for this one character to die, and then they didn't, and a different character died instead. But it was very heartfelt. It narratively, I think, made a lot of sense. Really like wrapped up, or took that character's arc to a really
yeah, wonderful but sad place. I just love this cast of characters so much, like Kissin, Elogast, Inara, and Skediseth, who for the most part are our point of view characters. They all just hold such a special place in my heart. And then I really love a lot of the secondary characters, whether I actually love them because they're like really lovely, like Kissin's sisters, or whether I like them because I don't actually like them. I just think they're a really interesting, complicated character, like Aaron. I kind of hate Aaron. I mean, just generally don't like him. But he's really interesting. His and Hestra's relationship is really interesting, and his and Elogast's relationship is so complex. I think all the relationships throughout, like friendships, romantic relationships, character relationships with the gods, familial relationships, all so interesting and different and yeah, complex. Just great. So I have finished the trilogy now. I do think God Killer is still my favourite. Like that for me was like a really high 4-star, like could have almost been a 5-star. Then probably Sunbringer, which is a really solid 4-star. And then I did also give Faithbreaker 4 stars. And I don't want to say like it's low 4-star, but it's, yeah, I think the order they go in is the order I would rank them in. But as a whole, as a trilogy, great, fantastic trilogy. Feels really consistent, really well written, really engaging, loved the world building. Just such a great, satisfying, like intense, impactful fantasy story. Very engaging, loved it. So that is it for this. Have you read the Fallen Gods trilogy? Are you interested in reading it now? I tried not to spoil too much. Let me know in the comments below. I will definitely read from Hannah Kaner again. I think she's such a great author, and listening to her speak in person at the event for the 3rd book was really interesting, and her upcoming potential projects sound really cool. So I will definitely read from her again. And that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye!